talking about what causes inflation. So there's two types of inflation. There's demand pull and there's cost push inflation. So both types of inflation cause an increase in the overall price level within an economy. So demand pull inflation, just reading right off of the website here, occurs when aggregate demand for goods and services in an economy rises more rapidly than an economy's productive capacity. One potential shock to aggregate demand might come from a central bank that rapidly increases the supply of money. So the increase in money in the economy will increase demand for goods and services, and in the short run, businesses cannot significantly increase production and supply remains constant. So the economy's equilibrium moves and prices will tend to rise, resulting in inflation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then cost push inflation, on the other hand, occurs when prices of production process inputs increase. Rapid wage increases or rising raw material prices are common causes of this type of inflation.
Okay.
A sharp rise in the price of imported oil during the 1970s provided a typical example of cost push. So either the demand increases too quickly for the supply to catch up, or something in the supply line increases in cost, therefore making the good more expensive to produce. That's what I'm getting out of that.
Yeah.
And so those things are, like, demand increasing is typically like a good sign in the economy, from what I understand, but it does cause inflation because the demand increases and then the supply cannot increase as quickly, and so it's always like chasing it basically. And because as demand increases, then supply will increase to meet demand until they intersect, and then as supply increases, demand often increases more, so they sort of chase one another. The interesting thing to note, though, is that as inflation is relatively consistent over the years, in terms of, like, you can look at it on a graph, and they use the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to map inflation, which is basically like a basket of goods that are
a random sort of goods, and they go and see what it costs.
And they see the cost difference, right? And so it's typically, I want to say 3% per year. I can look up to be sure. But the thing that's one of the problems that we've been seeing is that wages have not been increasing to match that. And so the buying power of the consumer has gone down, and they're purchasing,
so you can either look at it as wages going down or as prices going up, but either way, the actual buying power of Americans is decreasing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing with inflation that we have to consider is that there's an artificial barrier to our inflation running away in America, which is our empire, because we have the world's reserve currency. And because of that, our dollar is much more stable than any other country's currency. So...
Current inflation rate for the United States is 2.9% for the 12 months ended in July. Just as a...
Which is also a significant concern, though, because, so like when Britain lost their pound as the world's reserve currency when their empire fell, their economy fucking took a nosedive. And that's like one of the core things that other countries are trying to do right now is get our dollar no longer as the world's reserve currency, which would essentially tank our empire overnight and throw our economy into a tailspin. So,
yay!
That's something to think about too.
Yeah, no more need for the American empire. Just
that's again though. It's weird to me because like the whole idea of like the demand thing too is really confusing to me too, because it's like increasing demand seems like such a sketchy even idea to have, because it's like you have a demand for things, like people want it, right? Isn't that like just the demand is like they want something, right? And it's not like
the potential of people to buy something, people wanting to buy something. So how many consumers of a product are there?
Right, and then you would think that would be either because they need it to physically survive.
So you're asking, why is demand increasing? Why does it increase?
Well, there would be, like, I feel like there would be logical reasonings behind it. It's like if we have more people, you obviously, demand would increase.
Certainly.
Well, I think demand is also going to be tied to people's buying power. So demand goes down when people's buying power goes down.
But I don't really think that's... that's a weird way of doing it. That might be true. I'm just saying, like, the idea would be, like, if you had the opportunity to buy a computer because you had enough money, you would want to buy it.
Right.
So it's like... you're kind of like, you're playing with people's opportunity to buy things rather than the actual demand for it. It's not as though that demand went away actually. It's like the moment that they get enough resources.
So you're saying
for it.
you're thinking of demand as someone's actual desire to have something, as opposed to demand in the economic sense, which is people trying to buy something with resources they have.
I feel like people being it's like people's ability to buy something too.
Well, it's
demand,
more than that, because demand for a particular thing is based on how much a person wants to buy it. Like, given the capability.
No, real.
How much do they want it?
Yeah, and there is like that, like, the interplay for it. But that's going to be based on someone's, like, personality or, like, what they want for that.
But economists make sort of generalized ideas of that type of desire.